Welcome, everybody, to the Retirement Success in Maine podcast. My name is Ben Smith, and I'm one of your co hosts here on the show today. Listeners, I hope you're doing well. If you'd like to join the conversation, you can always email us at bensmith@guidancepointrs.com. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Just search Retirement Success in Maine podcast. You can find more of our shows, kind of more snippets, things like that. And I also like to introduce the partner to my winning hand, Curtis Wister. How you doing today, Curtis?
I'm doing well, Ben. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Well, I know today's episode we're going to talk a little bit about keeping our mind sharp and staying socially connected in retirement, right? And that's something we've talked
Hmm.
a lot about, especially in Maine. It is tough to stay connected to people, especially during these long winters.
Yep.
So, and we're going to look at a little bit of a classic game that offers both of those things. Bridge.
All right.
So, bridge, keeping your mind sharp and staying socially connected. So, I know, again, as we said, many retirees are looking for ways to stay mentally engaged, prevent cognitive decline, and find meaningful ways to connect with others, especially during these long, isolating winters here in New England. And that's where bridge is going to come in.
All
Studies
right.
have shown that playing bridge regularly can improve memory, strengthen problem solving skills, and even reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. And it's not just about brain health. Bridge is also a social game that fosters friendship and community, whether played in person or online. So, our guest today is a professional bridge teacher and co founder of the Bridge Teachers, a company that helps people of all ages, especially beginners, discover the joy of bridge. Whether you've never picked up a deck of cards or you're looking for a new way to challenge your mind, today's episode will show you why bridge might just be the perfect activity for your retirement.
That's right. That's right, Ben. Again, you just said it. Our guest today is a Los Angeles-based bridge teacher and co-founder of the Bridge Teachers, a company dedicated to making bridge easy and accessible for everybody. Our guest journey with bridge started in college, where he developed a passion for the game. He quickly realized that bridge wasn't just a pastime, it was a tool for lifelong learning, cognitive health, and social connection, which is everything we are looking for. So,
Mhm.
together with his wife, our guest has built a bridge education platform designed specifically for beginners, helping people who have never played before feel confident at the table. His innovative teaching style has been featured in the Bridge documentary, The Kids Table, and he's on a mission to modernize the game and introduce it to a new generation of players. Through online courses, social media, and engaging content, our guest is proving, that bridge is not only fun but also a powerful way to stay mentally sharp and socially engaged, especially as we age. So, with that, please join us in welcoming Brian Reynolds to the Retirement Success in Maine podcast. Brian, thank you so much for coming
Thank you
on
so
today.
much for having me. I'm super excited to talk with you today.
Awesome.
Well, yeah. So, Brian, I know, and we did a little pre-chat, and again, this is something where Curtis and myself, we are not bridge players, so we don't know this. And
Nope.
again, we're interested to learn because again, you
Yeah.
hear about bridge clubs and you hear about kind of all these pieces, and it's like I have no idea what even that all that means. So I'm anxious to hear all about that from you and learn all about bridge. But of course, with any of our shows, we want to dig into you a little bit more and your background to obviously just kind of paint you as their expert. So, love to just hear a little bit about the journey from just college bridge player to full time educator. Can you tell us a little bit of how you got into the game and what drew you to teaching it?
Sure. Getting into the game was easy. A girl was involved.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I met this girl. We were friends for about a year, and she went away for the summer. And when she came back, I asked her out on a date, and she said, "Sure, but you have to learn to play bridge." She wanted a quid pro quo. And my exact thought, and thank goodness I didn't say this out loud. There's nothing quite as confident as someone who doesn't know anything about the subject they're thinking about. But in my exact thought was, well, how hard can that be?
Hmm.
And I quickly found that it was extremely hard. It was
Okay.
extremely difficult to learn to play bridge. And the reason why it was so difficult is because there was basically no resource for someone who had never played before. This was coming out of the 70s, 80s, where in the 70s, bridge was the most popular game in the world, not just the most popular card game, the most popular game.
Wow.
So there was sort of this cultural idea or cultural thought that everybody plays bridge. You know how to play bridge. It was just sort of like a given baseline. So there was no real focus on you've never touched a deck of cards before. How are you going to learn this amazing game?
Hmm.
And this is before the internet. I didn't have an email address. I was a bit unusual amongst my classmates, and then I did have a personal computer. So there, every book that I could find in the library on bridge was very advanced. I didn't understand it, and it was a lot like trying to learn a language by reading, Dumas in the original French. It's not.
Mhm.
It's not a way to learn a language. Which brings me to how Samantha and I decided to start teaching, which
Yeah.
is as we played for fun and we played in tournaments and at the club as a way of interacting, spending time together. I realized that there were lots of people who wanted to learn, or if they knew the basics, they wanted to be better,
Mhm.
and there wasn't anyone who really focused on beginners.
Yeah.
And I'm basically trying to make it so no one has to go through what I went through,
I love that.
which is, 4 years of trying to teach my friends to play, even though I didn't really know how, not knowing how to get better, no resources out there for beginners. And then I actually fractured my leg in
Oh,
a sword fight on a national tour of Romeo and Juliet,
wow.
and I couldn't walk for 6 months. And two things happened. One, there was a new website where you could play bridge online,
Mhm.
and Samantha found a bridge club that was giving free lessons, and that was aimed at beginners.
Yeah.
And so those two things combined gave me an opportunity to play bridge, you know, 8, 10 hours a day. There wasn't anything else I could really do.
Sure.
Um, and that's when I really fell in love. Samantha and I both really, really fell in love with the game. So for us, when we take a look at bridge, I do not think that bridge is difficult to learn if you are given access to good information that's presented clearly. We're not the only people doing that, but that is our focus.
Hmm.
Samantha has a video. I think she's even put it up on YouTube now. Learn to play bridge in 9 minutes and 9 seconds.
Hmm.
So understanding the rules does not take that long.
Hmm.
And then the question people always ask is, well, how long does it take to get good? To which my response is, define good. I'm pretty mediocre at bridge. like, like
Yeah.
I'm an excellent teacher.
Yeah.
But I'm always quick to correct people. If people say I'm an expert bridge player, I'm like, no, 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 no.
Mhm.
I played against world champions. I am not an expert player. I'm an expert teacher. That's a
Wow.
big, big difference, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for us, it's a wonderful game. We're very passionate about it, and we want to make the entry process for people to try the game to be as painless as possible so
Yeah.
they can really focus on enjoying themselves.
Yeah, I love that, Brian. And I think kind of fast forwarding or kind of present time now, obviously you have the website, your business, The Bridge Teachers, which again focuses on helping complete beginners really learn bridge. I know you just shared a little bit of what kind of got you to that point of wanting to do that. So maybe I'll kind of ask the flip side of kind of what's been the most rewarding part of teaching bridge to these new players every day?
There's two aspects, which is most of my students, when I was starting, came from social groups
Okay.
where there were groups of retired people usually, and let's say out of 10 people in the group, seven of them or eight of them played bridge, and there were these two people who were sort of left out of that part of the social group. They
Mm.
were included in everything else, but oh, we're off to play bridge. Oh, you don't know how to play.
Gotcha.
So allowing people access to that world is amazing because if you like bridge, you're gonna love bridge.
Yeah.
It's a game that people get very passionate about. And it's so giving people that access is incredible.
Yeah.
And I've also had much younger students. One of my favorite pairs was a grandmother wanted to teach her grandson. So
Yeah.
it was a 6-year-old kid
Wow.
learning to play bridge, and it
Wow.
was a way for the grandmother and the grandson to bond and spend time together. And I mean that was beautiful because there's the old trope or there's the old cliche of like, now, honey, you've got to spend time with grandma. And the kid is like, oh, but grandma's boring or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So to see a grandchild actually super excited to go to grandma or to play bridge with grandma or to go to the bridge club with grandma and spend time with their elder, their elder family, that's beautiful. And that's how I grew up. My grandmother played games with me as just since I can remember. I mean, I've
Sure.
never
Mhm.
I can't remember a time when she didn't. So that's beautiful. And then the other side of it is bridge is two phases of the bridge of game. There's the auction and there's the play. The
Mhm.
auction is like learning a language, and the play is like learning chess. It's like learning moves, a strategy, these strategy moves.
Okay.
So basically, you're learning a language and you're learning how to solve little puzzles. So those aha moments where people understand how to say what they want to say, or, oh, I know how to solve this puzzle, that's really great. Like
Yeah.
that's a jolt of dopamine for me to see
Yeah.
someone get it or to feel like, oh, I've made progress. Um, and I'm very much a positive based coach. I feel that the more the student is focusing on what they're getting right,
Mm.
the faster they learn, and also the more enjoyable it is. I'm
Sure.
not a big, you did that wrong kind of guy.
Mhm.
Um, so seeing people's face light up,
Yeah, of course.
I actually kind of require. I mean, I have a few students on phone, but I kind of require people to be on Zoom.
Oh,
Mhm.
so you can see. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see them go, oh, and it's like
Yeah.
that's the moment for me that I just love teaching in that
Yeah.
moment.
That's awesome.
So Brian, obviously, as I kind of told you, is like Curtis and I being complete,
hmm hmm
just unaware of the game and just kind of understanding it. I think it'd
Yeah.
just be helpful. Just I know, as you said, your
Yeah.
spouse having a 9 minute, 9 second introduction to it,
Yeah.
without going through 9 minutes and 9 seconds of it, but kind of maybe like in a 60 second version
Sure.
of it. So just talk about like what the game is.
Sure.
And like again, it sounds like it's a two-person game, but also from a like how do you know you've won and how long does it take to kind of play a game? Like
That's
just kind of the
awesome.
basics.
Great,
Yeah.
great question. So, the first thing I'll say is Bridge is a partnership game, so it's you and your partner playing against two other people. So
Okay.
there's four people sitting at a table,
Okay.
um, even if it's a virtual table online. And you and your partner are competing against these two people. There's two phases to every bridge deal. Everybody's dealt a hand. So regular deck of cards, aces are always high, twos are always low. You can't make aces low even if you want to.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, no, nothing added, nothing taken away. So 52 cards, everybody's dealt the cards. So you have 13 cards. And now there's two phases to a bridge deal. The first one is the auction. The auction is just like if you were to go bid at an estate sale and you wanted to buy a lamp,
Mm.
everybody's bidding on the lamp, right? So
Sure.
if somebody bids $5, you get to bid more than $5. And the auction is over when three people in a row say, I'm not bidding anymore. So just like an auction, going once, going twice,
Sure.
sold, right? So same thing, right? In fact, originally it was called auction bridge. Now it's called contract bridge. There's some slight rules differences, so they
Okay.
changed the name. So then after the auction, You
Can I
have the,
pause you for a second, Brian?
of course,
Like, what are we bidding on? Like, what? So there's an auction,
great,
and like, am
great.
I bidding on like I
Yeah,
want the ace? What am I trying to
you're
get?
bidding on a contract. So what you're saying is if I am going to commit to taking a certain number of tricks, let's put a pin in the word tricks for a second. I'm going to take a certain number of tricks. If I succeed, I'm going to score points. And if I don't succeed, if I don't take the necessary number of tricks, I'm going to lose points. And it's you and your partner. So we will
Okay.
win points or lose points.
Okay.
And as a result of committing to this contract, you get to choose what's called the trump suit or the absence of a trump suit. Okay. So that's what you're bidding on. You're bidding on the contract. And you're bidding to take a majority of the tricks. So there's 13 tricks on every hand. Again, we're going to talk about tricks in a second, but
Okay.
you're bidding to take 7 or more, depending on the level of your contract. Okay. So now the auction's over. There's a contract, and the person to the left of the what we call the declarer makes a lead. Like they can pull any card they want out of their hand. Bridge is a bit of an outlier on a lot of card games in that there's a lot of freedom on what you get to do.
Hmm.
So the opening leader can choose any one of the 13 cards in their hand, and
Okay.
they put the card face up on the table, and then every hand has to follow that suit.
Gotcha.
So if I lead the ace of clubs, everyone has to play a club.
Yep.
Okay. Highest card of the suit that's led wins.
Okay.
Just like war.
Gotcha.
If you
Yeah,
played
yeah.
war,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
okay, great.
Yep.
So the person who wins, they lead to the next trick.
Hmm.
They can choose any card they want. They don't have to
Hmm.
stay in the same suit. They can. And they don't have to a high one. They can lead a low one. They can lead a middle card, whatever. Everybody follows suit. Highest card of the suit that led wins.
Hmm.
At the end, you'll have 13 tricks divvied up between the two sides. One side will have taken 7 or more, and one side will have taken
Gotcha.
6 or less. And now you'll figure out whether the offense made the contract or went set, didn't take enough tricks to make their contract. Now, the one caveat to the play of the hand, which makes bridge really, really interesting, is there's something called a trump suit. Okay, so let's say during the auction phase, it's decided that diamonds are the trump suit.
Okay.
And now the opening leader leads the ace of clubs, but the person playing the hand doesn't have any clubs. They have 0 clubs in their hand. They're not required to follow suit because they can't follow suit. They can play any card they want.
Hmm.
And because diamonds are the trump suit, the lowest diamond beats the highest club. So
Oh,
the
wow.
2 of
Okay.
diamonds
Yep.
will
Yeah.
beat the ace of
Yeah.
clubs.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, so if you're in the auction phase and you have a lot of hearts, let's say you have 7 hearts, you want hearts to be trump
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
because now your trump cards gain value that they wouldn't have if the opponents choose the trump suit. Let's say they have a lot of spades, for instance.
Sure.
So you're 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 buying or you're bidding the right to name the trump suit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And then but every level you go up, right? If you start at 1, but if you go up 2, 3, 4, you're saying I'm going to take another trick. I'm going to take another trick. I'm going to take another trick. And there's only 13. So by the time you get to 6 clubs or 6 hearts or 6 diamonds, you're saying I'm going to take every trick but one trick. And
Mm.
if you miss, your opponents get the points instead of you getting the points.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about the life lessons that bridge has taught me, but risk reward ratios is
Yeah.
at the top of the list.
Interesting.
Wow.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, so Brian, with that then, right? So
Yeah.
obviously you just explained this to us and kind of
Yeah.
that 10,000 foot view.
Right.
But you kind of talked about in the beginning, like here's you're researching yourself and you're trying to find like kind of information to play bridge.
Yeah.
And I could see where like, again, I am maybe there's nobody in my network immediately that's playing bridge that I know of. Maybe
Right.
I don't know it. Maybe they are.
Right. Right.
But part two is a lot of people relocate, right? As they go to a new place and they're trying to make friends. And part of this is I join clubs and I go, hey,
Yeah.
there might be a bridge club and I'm trying to get into this. So
Mhm.
talk to me a little bit about your approach to it because I could see where you're like, oh, I'm intimidated. I'm joining club. I don't know what this game is. People it
Uh-huh.
seem as advanced. Talk
Uh-huh.
about how you kind of look at that and try to make it easy and accessible for beginners to get into the game.
Sure. The first thing I would say is there's a reason Samantha has over 450 hours of video on our
Yeah.
website, and
Yeah.
she's adding content all the time, right? And it starts with step one. This is a deck of cards. I mean, literally, she has a lesson on this is the deck of cards.
Yeah.
Because if you if you're trying to learn this game, you need a thorough grounding in the basics, the fundamentals. And I don't necessarily mean even fundamental strategy. I just mean this is an ace.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Yeah.
they're black and round, they're clubs. If they're pointy at the top, they have spades.
Mhm.
And there's not there can be we can internalize stigma about like, wow, you don't even know what a club is. And for us, we really want to empower people, right? You're not stupid, you're not dumb, you're not unintelligent. This game isn't beyond you. You're simply inexperienced, or you simply have never been exposed to this knowledge before. So I would say if let's say someone's coming in from brand new, never touched a deck of cards, but they want to give this game a try. Well, we have a YouTube channel. Other people have YouTube channels. We tend to be sort of the go-to for I know nothing about bridge.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But yeah, you start with an understanding not of strategy, but of how does the game function. I'm a big believer in that if I show somebody how the game works, they figure a lot of stuff out on their
Mhm.
own. I
Sure.
don't there's plenty of things I could say about bridge that I never have to say because people go, "Oh, so this is true." And I go, "Yes, that is true.
Gotcha.
Very good." Right?
Gotcha.
And I think just from a learning standpoint, letting people discover for themselves is a superior way for them to understand.
Sure.
But I would say, okay, I've retired to Maine.
Mhm.
and
Oh boy.
actually, I once did a stunt workshop at a place called the Celebration Barn in Maine, which was about 4 hours north of Boston by bus.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with the hinterlands of Maine.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think there was a general store, but I never saw it. I was out in the woods.
A single stop sign. Is that about
I don't even know if they had a stop sign. Maybe they were getting a
it?
stop sign in later that year.
I love that.
And so now I want to learn to play. I want to learn to play bridge, or I want to connect with my community. I would say that the first thing is, if there is a bridge club, just call them
Yeah.
because bridge clubs will be so happy to hear from you.
Yeah.
They don't care you don't know how to play. They don't care that you've never played before. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I did a lot of odd jobs at the Barrington Bridge Club, and one of my jobs was to be standing by at 12:15 because if someone came in and wanted to play in the 12:30 game and didn't have a partner, you'd sit
Uh,
down across the table from me.
yeah.
Mm. Cool.
So I guarantee you, if you call your bridge club and they don't have a partner for you, you will be playing with the owner of the club. Like that will happen, right? Because they want you to come in. And then I would say the other thing is bridgebase.com, base.com. I am not affiliated with them. I don't have an affiliate link. I don't get paid for if you sign up. You can go on right now. You can create an account for free and you can play bridge 24/7. If you're not comfortable playing with people yet, you can play with robots. I think it's like $4 to rent a set of robot for the week.
Hmm.
But otherwise, you can play for free 24/7. And
Oh,
even the online tournaments, I think are like $5
Yeah.
for
Okay.
2 hours. That's the other thing I love about Bridge is it's insanely cheap.
Yeah.
As a hobby, it's insanely cheap. I have friends who are getting into golf.
Not,
oh, you don't need to tell us about that.
not cheap.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, how much did your new club cost? And they're
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
yeah, but it's got a graphite face head. And I'm like, okay, cool, awesome, great, enjoy yourself. It's like, I'm gonna go play bridge with my wife for 6 hours. It's gonna cost me electricity and the
Yeah.
internet connection, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's the first thing. The second thing is even online, even where you're playing with say random people or you're being matched up with random people, you build social connections. It's
Yes.
especially true when it comes to the bridge. I have played in bridge clubs on four different continents.
Wow.
And it's awesome to walk into a bridge club. It's really funny because especially when I was even younger than I am now, I'm still usually the youngest person in a bridge club. But it's really funny because the first thing they ask me is, "Have you ever played bridge before?" And I just say, "Yeah, I've played
Yeah.
before." They're like, "Okay, we'll match
Mhm.
you up with Joe or Sarah or whatever." And I'm like, "Cool." And I go and play with Joe and Sarah for a couple hours. Um, so just to dial down to your question, just make it really, really simple.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to learn to play bridge. I don't know what to do. Number one, check out our website.
Yep.
Check out our YouTube channel. We will get you from zero to a fundamental understanding of the game. Bridgebase.com.
Yep.
Go online, play, learn by doing, and acbl.org, American Contract Bridge League.org. Go on there. They have a finder. Find a club in your area. Find a teacher in your area. Find a tournament that you can go to. A lot of times tournaments have beginners, like I've never played before. They have beginner events. So
Mhm.
those are the ways that I would
I,
approach
I
learning
love
the
that.
game.
I love
Awesome.
that. Thank you so much for kind of that entire build up there from you and your start. No, no, I mean that seriously, and getting to where we are, and I think I'll pause before I dive into kind of the next segment we want to discuss, and just say for everybody listening, we will have both of those links that Brian just read off. We are going to have their Brian's YouTube channel, Brian's website, all the resources for you will be in our show notes, like we usually do for all of our guests. So if you want to pause right now and go there, that's perfectly fine too. So Brian, I know we've kind of shared with you, right, our focus here on retirement age. So we really want to get into bridge and the aging population. And again, there's kind of a through thread, I think, in a lot of our shows, and it's that sense of community that you were just talking about that I think bridge can help build. But the other side of the bridge that I want to ask you about, we teased a little bit in the intro, is kind of the brain health here. So there's a lot of research out there, right, showing that playing bridge can help keep the brain sharp and even reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. Can you just talk through some of the cognitive benefits that you see kind of firsthand playing bridge?
Oh, absolutely. So the first thing I'll say is it's 75%. Like in the studies that I've seen that were vetted, the longitudinal study in Scotland, and also I think there was a Harvard Medical School study, people who play bridge regularly, say once a week, 75% less incidence of Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia.
That's
And
awesome.
it's even been shown to retard the development of the disease. I don't think it's ever been shown to like recoup lost cognitive
Yeah,
function,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah,
Alzheimer's is a terrible, terrible disease. I've experienced both a friend and a family member losing them to that disease. Um, for me personally, I find it absolutely terrifying.
yeah.
There are many, many ways that the human body can fail, and I would say my mind failing is probably the scariest thing I can think of. So understanding that the brain is a muscle. When I grew up, we were told you get the brain you get, and starting at like age 2, your brain cells start dying, and you're never going to get them back, and you're going to. And what they've found is that's absolute garbage. It's not true. There's a very famous study of the London cab drivers in. They have to take this test called the knowledge,
Okay.
and the knowledge is every single street in London. And if you've ever driven or been, I've never, you do not drive in London, but if you've ever been in a cab in London and gone in any appreciable distance, it's a incredibly insane. There's always construction, streets are always changing. It was one way one week, and they have to know the entirety of London.
Wow. Yeah.
And it usually takes them like 2 years to study of hard study to be able to learn the knowledge. And
Wow.
what they found is London cab drivers have larger hippocampus by mass.
Hmm.
Their brains have literally more brain matter
Wow.
than the average person.
Wow.
Hmm.
So if you want bigger biceps, right? You go to the gym
Sure.
and you do curls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you want a more effective brain, you put it under pressure.
Yeah.
You ask it to do tasks under pressure, just like you ask your muscles to move under weight. So bridge is incredibly challenging to the brain in a lot of different areas. It challenges the language centers, it
Mm.
challenges the logic centers, it challenges the focus centers, it challenges the memory centers, it challenges adversity response because bridge is a game of mistakes.
Mm.
So Bob Hammond, who's the greatest player who ever lived, and he's still winning tournaments at age 88 or something like
Wow.
that. He's been a world champion for 6 decades. He says that the best players in the world make a mistake on every hand.
Yeah.
Now I think Bob's exaggerating a little tiny bit because Bob's a bit of he's from Texas. He's a big storyteller, great guy,
Mhm.
phenomenal guy. But he's not. He's close. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's like bridge, and that's another thing I love about bridge is the human experience is, oops, now what?
Mm.
Mhm.
That's the human experience. The human experience is I'm perfect all the time. The human experience is, ooh, I did something wrong. How do I recover from where I'm at? I mean,
Mm.
I'm sure that in your profession, a lot of times people come to you and they're like, I haven't been thinking about retirement for 20 years. And you're like,
Yes.
you probably should have. That's probably something you should have thought at before today.
Yeah.
But how do we deal with the situation in front of us?
Mhm.
That's what Bridge does. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bridge just challenges your brain in so many ways.
So yeah, Brian, I think that's a really great analogy because again, from our end is, hey, the goal is to say, how do we make tomorrow better, not just more than yesterday, right? So it's like if
Yeah.
we are always looking forward, and obviously that sounds what the game is doing a lot of. I think that's really important, especially for again, kind of this then the theme of looking forward. Again, I think all of us are better people when we're looking forward to events and people and things that we're doing next, right?
Yes.
So and
Yes.
that's just a challenge I think a lot of retirees face when we say social isolation's a thing. It's like,
Yeah.
look, we're gonna have I think another 4 or 5 inches here tomorrow in terms of snow, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, like, and we had a client come in this week and it was like, well, if it's snowing out, I just know I don't go out, right? It's like, well, what if there's several days in a row that you're not going out? Or what if, your driveway can't get plowed and you just can't actually physically leave your home until maybe somebody's able to help you with that? Like those are legitimate challenges of that's preventing people from going, what would be great for me is if I could go to physically see people and go to the community center, go to the library, go to a bridge club, go to wherever and be able to have those connections. But my question to you is about using bridge. And as you said, Brian, about, hey, if I have electricity and internet, right, I'm kind of plugged in and we're for a very inexpensively, we're kind of scratching the social part. So can you talk a little bit about that, about just social isolation, especially I'm sure all of us during COVID had that experience,
Oh
and then
yeah.
maybe what Bridge meant for you during that time frame.
Yeah, man, COVID. I was actually in New York about to go to London
Oh, wow.
the day they shut down Broadway.
Yeah.
And Morgan and I knocked on Morgan's hotel door. I just found out Broadway had shut down. We were supposed to see a show that night. I said, I don't think we should go to London. And we flew home the next day. It was supposed to be a 2 week trip, and we were gone for 23 hours. And I didn't leave
Yeah.
my house for 7 months.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a very much creature, a social creature. And I was just trying to find ways to stay connected. I would have all my actor friends on Zoom. We do readings. We actually ended up doing a reading of one of my scripts that we made into a movie that we're currently in talks for distribution of.
Wow.
But it was how to stay connected. And Bridge is an amazing conduit for that
Yeah.
because even even if you're not on Zoom, even if you're not on the phone or FaceTime or whatever, you're still interacting with someone in a pretty significant way.
Hmm.
When
Hmm.
I play bridge with Samantha, we've been playing together for 30 years now. When I sit across the table from her, I say maybe if a tournament, I'd say maybe 10 words in three
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
but I am connected to her way more than any vocalization would.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect. I think there's also something really important about the idea of this is what I do. This is the thing, and nothing gets in the way of it. Every day I get online and I play bridge from 10 to 1 o'clock, and then I have my partners, or I don't, or whoever I play with. I think there's something so important about that,
Yeah.
because it gives you a grounding in your life. Um, yeah, I've played bridge under some pretty unusual situations. I had a client from back east, and I was at the gym at 5 in the morning, and the client texted me. It's like, I really want to play bridge. Can you play in the 8-10 game? Now the 8-10 game in New York is the five
Yeah.
ten
Right,
game
right.
in LA,
Sure.
and I'm at the gym with my lifting partner. I said, sure. So I fired up my iPad,
Yeah.
and I'm literally doing pull-ups, and I'm like looking over my iPad. I'm like, hey, can you press the jack of clubs for me? Because my gym partner doesn't play bridge. They're like, "What are you
Yep.
doing?" I'm like, "Someone
Just
wants to play
just go
bridge."
with it. Yeah.
So I think that when it comes to whether you're isolated because of the weather or you're isolated because of physical reasons, I did a video. I think it's on our YouTube channel of how you can play bridge if you can't use a mouse and a keyboard,
Wow.
Okay.
where you can literally just use your voice to play bridge.
Yeah.
Because I want to make it accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, I think that giving being able to do something that
Yeah.
connective and that challenging, I think is really important.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And I think Ben is agreeing as well here. And, I think just that, again, that source of kind of community. Again, I don't care if you're 15 or you're 95, right? These people are waking up, looking forward to this game. Again, centered around our show. Again, I'm picturing, the nursing home retirement community, right? And that's maybe the only thing they're doing today is waking up to play that game of bridge, right? So,
Yeah.
I think it's really cool that you're really diving in and embracing that community aspect to the game. I want to pivot a little on it. It's something you just brought up with your story of being able to play on an iPad, or you just said right there at the tail end of your question about accessibility and using your voice, right? So again, your company, the Bridge Teachers, and again, we're going to link all your info here for everybody in the show. You've really embraced online learning, social media, right? Trying to modernize bridge education and playing bridge. Can you just talk a little bit about the digital opportunities, again, for retirees or really anybody that's learning to play bridge online? Again, I know the story you just told of being able to say, use your voice instead of a mouse and keyboard or whatever it may be.
Yeah, that actually came out of talking to someone with Parkinson's,
Yeah,
who wanted to learn to play bridge. And I was talking to them, and they're like, I want to learn to play bridge, but I got to tell you, using a mouse for that long,
yeah,
that's the non-starter for me.
yeah,
Yep.
And it was really a call to action for me. It was a really challenge for me because, my whole thing is I want to make bridge accessible.
yeah.
And I had never thought about it from a physical standpoint before, because bridge is minimally physical.
Sure, sure.
um,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
um, just a real quick, Samantha suffers from migraines, and there's been a couple of times. I'm thinking of one particular tournament where we were playing in the regional finals and trying to score a trip to a national finals event,
Wow.
and she got a migraine,
Hmm.
like two or three boards into a 36 board match. And when Samantha gets a migraine, she goes completely blind and she starts throwing up.
Mm,
Mm.
And we didn't have a substitute.
yeah,
I don't think even legally we could have had a substitute. So when got back from the bathroom,
yeah.
she had to have somebody whisper in her ear all of her cards,
Yeah.
and then we had to announce all of our bids and our cards, and she had to play blind
Oh my
Mm.
for
goodness.
about 5 hours.
Wow.
Um, and my wife is the most intelligent, strongest, incredible person I've ever met in my entire life. Her taste in men is terrible, but other than that, she's incredible. But but I mean, She played great. She
That's awesome.
like without missing a beat. So when someone says to me, I don't feel I can play bridge, I instantly want to know why.
Yeah.
Because I want to solve it for
I'd
you.
say it's a challenge for you
By
to
the way,
solve.
if you would please put up in your show notes, my email is brian@thebridgeteachers.com. You don't have to be a student, you don't have to be a subscriber. If you feel if you want some, if you're like, I've hit a bottleneck, I've hit a roadblock, I can't learn this game, email me directly. Um, we're a small company. It's just the three of us, so we're very about, personal connection with our fan base or subscriber base.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this person with Parkinson's says, I can't use a mouse that long. And I said, okay. So I did some research, and there's software baked into your computer. You don't even have to buy anything. You can literally just set it up, and now you can play bridge with your voice.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think there's anyone who can't play bridge.
Mm.
I've played bridge against people who were blind. I've played bridge against people who, were in wheelchairs, who really couldn't move and had a caretaker who had to play their cards for them. Um, it doesn't matter. And so anything we can do to make that happen for people, we want to do that.
Yeah. That's
So,
awesome.
Brian, so yeah, that's really great. And I know, just want to kind of take another kind of
Yeah.
lens at Bridge here, right? And as you're saying, is like, so you and your spouse, right, is teaming up, and here you are in a tournament and all that. And so, right, and obviously it just highlights that bridge is a game of partnership and teamwork, right? It's like you can't just go in alone. You got to be working side by side with somebody here. So talk a little bit about how just obviously this game is something that's able to help strengthen communication and relationship skills, uh, just even outside of the game itself. Because I don't want to just give us a little background here. We hear a lot of people that they're saying, "Hey, I'm retiring," or "I just retired. I haven't spent this much time with my spouse,
Yeah.
maybe ever," right? Is
Yeah.
we were all working, we're all binging on career, we're worried about,
Yeah.
all the other family stuff that we were doing. And
Yeah.
now here we are, we're looking at each other, we're both retired, we're sitting here.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do to connect? How do we work together better? How do we
Yeah.
strengthen this so a little bit? Because again, we want to be enjoying our time together. So I want to just give you that backdrop,
Yeah.
because I think it's important of, again, outside of just bridge, but how is this kind of strengthening communication and relationship skills?
Totally. Yeah. You're talking about both the inside the game and sort of outside the game, right? The
Yep,
meta
that's
game
right.
surrounding the game. We've already talked about the inside of the game, where if you're not a good partner, if you're not thinking about your partner's problems and trying to solve them, and but let's talk about outside the game, the meta game, right?
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who performs better when a person on their team is making them feel bad.
Hmm.
Sure.
I'm just not a big fan of the coach or the player, the teammate who screams and yells and throws a fit because someone made a mistake.
Yeah.
I don't see that as being productive. I think people who think that is productive, I think, are sort of fooling themselves. The whole, oh, it's tough love. It's like,
Hmm.
I think
Is
there's
it?
other ways to communicate that
Yep.
information.
Yep.
And I think that I tell people that bridge made me a much better husband. I don't mean a little bit. I mean, like, I don't think without bridge I would be a very good husband at all. Like, I would even say that without bridge I'd probably be a pretty bad husband,
Hmm.
because bridge taught me so much about being a good partner.
Hmm.
And you know, one of the first things it taught me is, when your partner makes a mistake, when they screw up, they already feel bad.
Yeah.
No one takes an action thinking, "Oh, this is terrible. I'm so glad I'm doing this."
Hmm.
Right? We
Yeah.
all we all try and act from a place of doing our best all the time. We can't help it. It's human nature.
Hmm.
If you don't believe me, try to do something you're good at poorly. It's like, just give it a shot. You won't.
Hmm.
So So when your partner makes a mistake, they're already doing the thing where they feel bad. You need to do the thing where you show love and support. And I don't care if you're dating them or not. I mean, my,
Yeah.
the girl who said I had to play bridge, we've been together for 33 years now.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you're dating your partner or if they're a random person online or whatever. I mean the word love. You have to show love towards another human being in their time of adversity.
Mm.
And if you don't want to, like if you just like that's not in you, that's fine. I don't have no judgment on that. But let me just talk to the very selfish people out there. Your partner will play better, you'll score better, and you'll win more if you at least fake showing them love.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Fake it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretend. You're mad, you're seething, you want to throw something at them. Just pretend.
I love
And and so Bridge taught me that. Bridge taught me that to be a good partner in when your partner is going through their worst, that's when you have to be your best.
that.
And it's not enough for your best has to be better tomorrow than it was today.
Yep.
Your best just 1%, but it has to be better tomorrow than it is today.
Mm.
And that made me like I didn't really think about it until all of a sudden I turned around. Samantha had been together for 15 years, and I went, "Oh, I'm a much better husband than I used to be."
Yeah.
I love that.
Because the bridge team. That's the other thing about bridge is bridge. Bridge doesn't care about you.
Yeah.
Bridge, if you think you're going to step up to bridge and like tell bridge how it's going to work and what's going to be what you want to do, bridge will crush you.
Mm.
You have to give yourself over to bridge. You have to understand how bridge works, and you have to perform in ways that is optimal for bridge, right? So bridge is excellent training. Like
Yeah.
if you don't understand return on investment, you're not going to be very good at bridge.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And if you get very good at bridge, you'll inadvertently understand return on investment.
Okay.
I love it. I love it.
Well, Brian, I want to make a quick point of because one of the things that you said kind of triggered me a little bit, and one is just kind of this whole relationship and building relationships. And we actually had a one of our shows was around how can grandparents build better
Yeah.
connections with their grandkids, right? Is
Yeah.
because they're into Fortnite and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not into Fortnite or
Right.
Minecraft or things. But a lot of times it's not what they can talk about was what the guest was talking about, Chris McLaughlin. He was saying it's not about just what you're talking about with them, but sometimes what you're doing with them,
Yeah.
right? And relationships a lot of times are based on doing things together, right?
Sure.
And to say, here's the people that I want to have big like more relationships with or deeper relationships with. So I just was kind of you were making that point about relationships and being a better husband and being a better person and cheering for your teammate here, but you also say like, all right, well, it just kind of things that were being brought out was what about, hey, if I want to have a better relationship with my grandson who's 12
Yeah.
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 and or he's 15 or she's 17 and we're
Yeah.
kind of like we don't really have a whole lot to talk about and they're into clothes and their friends and I'm not those, but I'm not her parent, so maybe there's a safe way we can be doing something and creating a relationship where I'm not their parent and we can talk about things too. So I don't know, I can see
Well,
where if you're spending a lot of time together and doing something that you're having fun, that other parts of that come out as well.
and I think you saw that too, Brian. I think you shared a story at the very beginning about you had I think a 6-year-old you said who was
Yeah.
learning to play
6.
with his grandparent. So I mean,
Yeah.
you're seeing
Yeah.
that right in live action.
Yeah. It ties in both to inside the game and outside the game, right? One of the most important meta skills, and by meta I just mean something that sort of transcends any one particular
Hmm.
moment, um, is anticipating your partner's problem and solving it. Right. So I don't
Sure.
I don't have grandkids, but if I did, if I had, a 8-year-old boy coming over to spend time with dear old grandpa, because a bridge has taught me to anticipate my partner's problem, I would be thinking about my grandchild's experience coming to my home
Sure.
or coming to spend time with me. I'm 8.
Yeah.
My brain is going a million miles a minute, and my body is designed to run around for 9 hours a day, even without sugar.
Hmm.
Well, grandpa needs a nap. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's 2 o'clock. I'm putting my head down for 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
naps, shout out to naps. Like, who doesn't love a good nap, right? When I was 8, you tell me I need to take a nap. I'd want to,
No
I'd want to,
way.
like, I run away. I'm just going to go for a quick run for 6 hours. So when games like Fortnite are a great example, right? Fortnite is extreme mental stimulation at an incredible level that was not really possible prior to this era, like
Yeah.
Hmm.
the last
No,
20 years, 15, 20 years.
100%.
Yeah, so these battle royale games or video games, and by the way, I love video games. Samantha and I love video games. We play video games together all the time. So I'm not bagging on video games. But what I'm saying is, if you've got a child who likes Fortnite and they're coming over to your home isn't Fortnite. So how can we mentally stimulate this person? How can we make the experience engaging for them? And if they like puzzles, if they like bridge is actually incredibly physically stimulating. Or
Yeah.
sorry, mentally stimulating. It's
Hmm.
incredibly mentally stimulating. It from the outside, it looks like nothing's happened. I promise you, if you watch me play bridge, you'll think you're watching paint dry. I'm doing a lot up top.
Sure.
Hmm.
So if your child, like, I keep saying if because let's be honest, like, let's just be totally honest, okay? If 10,000 people listen to this podcast and say, I'm trying bridge, I'm going to try bridge for 2 months, only about 25% of them will actually like bridge enough to keep going with it.
Wow.
Just
Yeah.
because some people don't like card games, some people don't like puzzles. Um, you know, Morgan, our partner, she knows how to play bridge. We won an event, a side pair game at a nationals one year. She doesn't play bridge.
Mm.
She just finished a 200 kilometer hike through Spain and she took
Hmm.
photos the whole time. She's a
Yeah.
photographer,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not saying that I'm not saying your grandkid's going to like bridge. They might not.
Sure.
But if they like bridge, now you got it easy. I'm going to the tournament with grandma, right?
Right.
We're gonna play together. And then now you get the really fun experience of you make a mistake. I was talking about this with someone else, and I was saying that I'm really into bowling. I love bowling,
Hmm.
and I was practicing, and I was bowling next to a father and a son, right? And the father's full grown man, pretty big guy actually, like just big,
Hmm.
throwing just throwing the ball so hard. I was like, okay. And his son, I'm not good with kids' ages. He was somewhere between, like, 7 and 10, somewhere in
Sure.
that range. But the ball was almost bigger than he was, right? So his son was a good bowler, but he's clearly doing it differently,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So, and great dad, shout out to the dad, amazing. He was coaching him, very very beautiful parenting, great to see, love to see it. When you play bridge with your child or your grandchild, the odds are really good they're going to be better than you quickly.
Yeah.
So now you can have an equal partnership
Yeah.
Hmm.
instead of, oh, you know dad, you're so much stronger than me, or
Right.
my uncle never let me win at basketball ever, one on
Right.
one, never let me
Right.
win. And
Yeah.
which, my uncle's a great guy, he wasn't being a jerk, but he was like, earn it, right?
Yeah.
But but I always beat him at chess.
Yeah.
So
Well,
so
you level the playing field almost.
totally,
Yeah. No, I
yeah,
love that.
yeah. So it gives you something that, if the person in your life that you want to connect with more, doesn't matter, spouse, old, young, family member, friend, um, we have bridge nights where our friends come over and we just play bridge.
Yeah.
Um, and we talk the entire time. We catch up. So we're playing cards and we're talking about,
I love that.
the new job or whatever. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's an awesome way to expand the experience of being with someone.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So we're closing in on the end of our conversation here, Brian. I have a couple questions left for you. The first
Great.
one, so it's a little It's kind of a one shot only question for you here. So
Okay.
you have to give one piece of advice to somebody, let's say somebody in retirement, considering giving bridge a try for the first time.
Hmm.
What's the advice?
Commit.
I love that.
Don't say you're
Easy.
going to try bridge and then, one lesson or 1 week and you like we have a saying in my family which is burn the boats at the water line.
Yep.
And so if you're going to try something, if you're really going to try something, give bridge 3 months.
Yeah.
Play at least once a week, study, try to learn.
Yeah.
If you have a bottleneck, email me. Say, I don't want to do 3 months, but I committed. Help me. I'll help you. I'll
You
help you
made me
out.
do this for three
I just
months. I'm
I was
here.
at the bowling alley practicing. I got a phone call from someone, not a subscriber, not a student, and they're like, "Hey, I'm lost about this." And I talked to them for a couple minutes. I said, "Here's the solution." They're like, "Oh, thanks." And they hung up. Cool. But
Hmm.
commit.
Yeah.
If at the end of 3 months you're like, "This isn't really for me," then I will agree with you 100%.
All right.
But if you come to me 3 weeks later and say, "I don't really think bridge is for me," I'll be like, "Did you give it a shot? Did you really
Yeah.
give it a
Right.
shot?
Yeah.
Commit."
All right. No, I like it. That's fair. That's good. You
Okay.
got it. All right. Last question for you. Again,
Okay.
first, this one, I'm guessing it's going to involve bridge, but I think probably a little different angle. So first off, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show, teaching. I know Ben said it a couple times. I had heard of bridge, no idea how to play it, how it worked. So thank you for providing that knowledge. So the question, so again, the name of our show, right? Retirement success in Maine. So we have to ask you a retirement question. So my
Mhm.
question for you, Brian, is how are you going to find your personal retirement success when the time comes? What's that going to look like for you?
Well, that's a tough question. I'll tell you why. Because to a certain extent, I already think of myself as retired.
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, I I teach bridge, so I mean I'm still making money. So I guess if you're saying when I reach the point where my revenue streams aren't necessarily are more like investment based, but
Hmm.
Yeah.
I still make money. But I make movies.
Yep.
I teach bridge. I'm getting my drone pilot's license.
Wow.
I bowl in tournaments. I'm studying singing pretty seriously.
That's awesome.
Um, so I would say that for me, retirement is when I get to do things rather than have to do things.
Yeah.
Love that. Yep.
And it sounds like you're there. Like you said, I'll echo that. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
great.
I have a beautiful life. I don't know how I
Yeah.
ended. I do know how I ended up here, Samantha. Samantha. Everything. The answer is always Samantha.
It's because she
Sh
made you learn bridge.
Yeah, I
That's the
mean,
result
no
here.
joke, no joke. I mean, we moved to LA, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't want to wait tables anymore. I was tired of it. And we were at the bridge club, and this one woman kept coming up and asking me questions, and I'd answer her. I was like, yeah, I think this or that and the other thing. And one day she says to me, "Hey, would you give me a private lesson?"
Yeah.
I said, "Sure."
Yeah.
And I gave her a private lesson, and then she says, "Hey, my 4 friends want to take lessons from you." I'm like, "Sure."
Yeah.
And a year later, I had a waiting list, and I was like, "What happened?" I don't. It was not intentional.
Wow.
Um, so yeah. I mean, my wife. We could do a 3 hour podcast, and I wouldn't even begin to scratch the surface of how amazing my wife is. So yeah. So
No, that's
thank
awesome.
you, Samantha.
That's incredible.
Well, Brian, as Curtis said, thank you for coming on our show. This is a lot of fun just to, again, learn about another area that, again, we hope that those out listening, maybe they're going like, I don't know bridge either. And this is kind of like, because I think we have enough people that go, this is the time to try things. This is the time to experiment. This is the time to reinvent. This is the time
Mhm.
to kind of think about all the things that I could be and want to be and try out new things. So again, I really value what you brought it to us today of just giving that introduction and getting maybe piquing the interest. So if you're out there listening, you can say, hey, Brian really got some really great points of it and I would love to give this a try. And that sounds really great. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah.
I think that was really successful in accomplishing what we want to get out of it today. So again, as Curtis said, we'll put the show notes in. But again, thank you so much for all you did for us today.
This was an amazing opportunity, so I really, really appreciate you folks having me on and having such an amazing conversation with me about something that I'm really passionate about. So thank you.
Awesome.
Of course.
All right, Brian. Well, very great to meet you, and maybe we'll catch up down the road. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
Take care. Bye
So,
bye. Again, really great to have Brian Reynolds on, and again,
yeah.
talking about why you should give Bridge a chance in retirement. Yeah, again, I didn't know anything about Bridge. Again, I've heard about
I got
Bridge
nothing.
clubs and things like
Yeah.
that, but yeah, just kind of fascinating to kind of hear a little bit about it and kind of pique some interest, and hopefully you out there kind of understood and heard a little bit about
Yeah.
that made you want to give it a try. But we will post all the things that Brian was commenting about and
Yeah.
links and the resources. As he said, his email address, we'll give that to you if you go to blog.guidancepointllc.com/110 for episode 110.
Nice. We're cruising.
And yeah, you can kind of find all that there. Again, we kind of learned a lot today, so I'm
Yeah.
really excited that we got to kind of experience that a little bit, and I hope you did too. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.